There was once an old king who could not shake his worries. He had only one son, but this son showed no interest in the affairs of the kingdom, spending his days chasing after women and indulging in a life of pleasure. When I die, he will become king. How can I ensure the future of this kingdom? What can I do to teach the prince what is most valuable in this world? The old king eventually passed away, burdened with his daily worries. As soon as the son ascended to the throne, he indulged even more in a life of luxury and amusement. He summoned all the beautiful women from across the kingdom and threw lavish parties every day, dedicating himself entirely to drinking, dancing, and endless merriment. Meanwhile, the kingdom fell into disarray. Discontent spread like wildfire, with people everywhere clamoring to overthrow the king. Yet the young king remained oblivious, consumed only by his pleasures. Then, one night, he had a strange dream. A ghost appeared before him, whispering in a haunting voice, "Your Majesty, wouldn't you like to possess the most priceless and magnificent treasure in the world? If you desire this treasure, travel to the village of Taloria and seek out the white-haired sage. But first, dig beneath the palace's basement. There, you will find the treasure." The king woke up, dismissing the dream as nonsense. But the next night, and the night after that, the same ghost appeared, repeatedly revealing the location of the hidden treasure. Unable to shake off the strange feeling, the king finally decided to investigate. Early one morning, before anyone could notice, he sneaked down into the palace basement and began to dig. He dug and dug, but nothing appeared. Just as he was about to give up and leave, his pickaxe struck something hard. Startled, he cleared away the dirt and uncovered a small handle. Curiosity getting the better of him, he pulled the handle, revealing a hidden staircase leading down into the darkness. Taking a deep breath, the king carefully descended the steps, unsure of what awaited him below. As the king descended deeper, the glowing light grew brighter and more intense. It became so dazzling that he had to close his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, he could hardly believe what he saw. A vast chamber filled with glittering jewels everywhere. The king was speechless, completely captivated by the radiant beauty surrounding him. Then, he moved towards a door from which light was spilling out. When he stepped inside, he nearly fainted from the sight before him. Inside the room, a waterfall was flowing, but the cascading streams weren't water. They were streams of pure gold, forming a magnificent golden waterfall. The king, overwhelmed with joy, thought to himself, "With all these jewels, I will never have to worry about anything again. This treasure is more than enough to last a lifetime." As the king was about to turn back, he noticed a door ahead, tightly secured with a heavy lock. On the door, these words were written: "The greatest treasure, more valuable than any other in the world, lies beyond this door. To unlock it, seek the sage of Taloria." The king, who had just moments ago felt content with the treasure he had discovered, now found himself overwhelmed with desire for the treasure mentioned in the inscription. The next day, the king went to see the wise man of Taloria. After explaining everything, he asked how to unlock the treasure room. "Welcome, Your Majesty. I've been expecting you. I shall tell you how to open that room." The king, overjoyed, eagerly awaited the wise man's next words. "Only a woman with a kind heart can open that room. You must find her, Your Majesty," the wise man explained. "What? How am I supposed to know if a woman's heart is kind? Isn't it enough if she's simply beautiful?" The king replied, confused. A beautiful face alone will not open the door if her heart is not kind. I will give you this mirror. Reflect the woman's face in it. If the mirror stays clear, she has a kind heart. But if it becomes cloudy, she is not the one. Also, you must remove your royal attire and dress as a commoner while searching for her. Once you find the kind-hearted woman, bring her to the treasure room. The door will open. And if you offer her as a sacrifice, all the treasures will be yours. The king thanked the wise man and set off to find the woman. Truth be told, with just one command, the most beautiful women in the entire kingdom would have lined up in front of him. He found it bothersome, but the thought of gaining the treasure gave him the strength to carry on. However, finding a kind-hearted woman was not easy. Moreover, the king refused to even reflect a woman in the mirror unless she was beautiful, which made his search even harder. Day after day, he met countless women and reflected them in the mirror, but the mirror always turned cloudy. As the days went by, the king became more disheartened and exhausted. That day was no different. Thirsty, the king stopped by a village well where many women had gathered to fetch water. He felt a flicker of hope, but for some reason, the scene was chaotic. As he got closer, he saw that the women were arguing, each wanting to draw water first. The king felt irritated, but was soon shocked by what he overheard. It's all the king's fault. There's no food or water left in the kingdom, but they say he ignores the kingdom's troubles. Even though we starve, they say those in the palace eat and drink to their heart's content. We're fighting over water, while the king does nothing but feast and play. This is all because of the king. The women continued their harsh complaints, completely unaware that the very king they spoke of stood right beside them. After days of wandering, the king's appearance had become so ragged that it was hard to tell if he was a poor noble or a commoner. Although their words angered him, seeing the people struggle for water made him feel ashamed. The king waited until everyone had left and then tried to draw some water from the well, hoping for at least a little. But there was none. "Would you like some of my water?" A plain-looking woman offered him a small bucket of water. The king, seeing her unattractive face, instinctively grimaced. But in that moment, the mirror began to shine brightly. Surprised, the king reflected her face in the mirror. What a surprise! The mirror was crystal clear as it reflected her. The king had finally found the kind-hearted woman he had been searching for. Overjoyed, he looked at her, forgetting his thirst. The king decided to take her to the palace. On the way, he asked her, "Everyone is struggling because there's so little water. Why did you give yours to someone else?" She smiled gently and replied, "Offering water to a thirsty soul is just the natural thing to do." As they walked together to the palace, the king found himself falling for her. Though she wasn't beautiful, her wisdom and kind heart captivated him completely. The king no longer wanted to offer her as a sacrifice. When they arrived at the palace, he called for the wise man and asked, "Is there any way to obtain the treasure without sacrificing her?" "It's impossible," the wise man replied. "Don't hesitate. Offer her as a sacrifice and claim the greatest treasure in the world." The king, driven by his desire for the treasure, steeled himself and led the woman to the underground chamber. They stood before the treasure room. "Hurry, make the sacrifice and open the door to claim your riches," urged the wise man. But the king shook his head. When the wise man pushed the woman toward the door, the king rushed forward and stopped him. "No, let her go," the king said. "No treasure is worth more than this woman. A heavy silence filled the room. After a long pause, the wise man finally spoke. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. This woman is your father's gift to you." It was all part of the late king's plan to teach his son that the most precious things in the world are not beauty or riches, but a kind heart. The king was overjoyed and no longer cared for the treasure. He married the woman and made her his queen, ruling the kingdom wisely and kindly ever after. "It was a gift from your father. Have a good night."